One of the major incidents during the Cold War became known as the Berlin Airlift. But what was the Berlin Airlift? At the conclusion of World War II, Germany was divided into four portions: the United States, Great Britain, France, and Soviet Union. Each one controlled one segment. Berlin, the German capital city, was located deep into the Soviet zone, but it was also divided into four sectors. As the wartime alliance between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union ended and friendly relations turned hostile, the question of whether the Western occupation zones in Berlin will remain under the Western Allied control or whether the city will be absorbed into the Soviet-controlled Eastern Germany led to the first Berlin crisis of the Cold War.
The crisis started on June 24, 1948, when Soviet forces blocked rail, road, and water access to Allied-controlled areas of Berlin. The old German currency, known as the Reichsmark, will be replaced by a new one called the Deutschmark, that was created by the American, British, and French regions of Germany. In response to this decision, the Soviet Union stopped all the traffic between East and West Berlin. As well, they stopped all the communications with the non-Soviet sector of the city. Supplying trains were turned around, and also the electricity was cut from West Berlin.
The non-Soviet region of Berlin was completely isolated in a hostile territory. During those times, this region of Berlin had enough food to last about 36 days and nearly 45 days worth of coal. By June 24, 1948, West Berlin was surrounded by 2.5 million Soviet troops. And in June 25, the USA, Great Britain, and other allied nations decided on a response that is commonly known as the Berlin Airlift.
France, Great Britain, and the USA began flying planes into West Berlin, each one carrying lots of supplies, including food, coal, and other products to cover the basic needs of their citizens. At first, progress was slow, but fresh supplies were flowing into West Berlin by the minute. The Soviets were helpless to stop the flights. If they had opened fire in the planes, it would have been considered an act of war, leaving them no option than to watch the show. As consequence, the planes were allowed to land, providing successfully West Berliners with the items and food needed to survive.
By April of 1949, the Soviets realized that the blockade effort was futile, and finally, on May 12 of the same year, it came to an end, but the Berlin Airlift continued for several more months, with countless planes landing in Berlin. At the airlift's concluded, the American and British forces had combined the supplies with over 2 million tons of supplies. There were 101 deaths caused by the crashes during the airlift. The cost of the airlift was $224 million. However, most believe it was a small price to secure the lives and freedom of those in West Berlin.